guys, it's your girl Faith and I'm back with another video for you. Happy New Year, guys. I hope you all had a great end to your 2022. I, for one, I'm extremely grateful to God that I get to see a new year. I'm thankful for life and I'm thankful for you guys. And so, as you can tell from the title of this video, I will be sharing with you guys my unpopular opinions. And so, yeah, some of you guys will not like me at the end of this video, and that is okay. I still thought to share my unpopular opinions because I felt like it, and I feel like they just need to be said. So, let's get into this video. I think many people tend to justify their poor decisions as being part of God's purpose, when in actuality, those are the repercussions of foolishness and naivete. I know that may sound pretty harsh, but it's something that I've come to realize, especially looking at social media. I've seen a lot of videos of people talking about how, especially their dating life, is the result of God's purpose, and how having dated toxic men and women or people that were just not right for them altogether, was part of God's purpose. Those were lessons from God, and how, God has a greater plan. It's to build them and whatnot. Quite all right. God is a God who utilizes turns that we make, even though they are not part of what he would want for us. But I think the whole concept of us saying that every poor decision we make that doesn't turn out in our favor or give us the outcome that we like as being part of, God's purpose, because inadvertently God is going to redirect, everything to turn out to be in our favor, is wrong altogether, if that makes sense. And I have biblical basis for this, just in case you were wondering and questioning where this is coming from. I came across a verse in Proverbs. It's in Proverbs 19 verse 3. The NLT version says, "People ruin their lives by their own foolishness and then are angry at the Lord." And I think what it all comes down to is learning to take accountability for your own actions. It's very easy to deflect and project our issues on someone else, or to blame someone else altogether. And at times I find that many of us do that even with God. We put the blame on God and say that, oh yeah, it was part of his plan, when in actuality, we just never listened. We were too naive and we didn't submit to God's guidance, and then go ahead to blame God for our own foolishness. And I think that's wrong altogether, and I think it's time we started to take accountability for our own actions, to say, oh, I didn't know here. The red flags were flying high, but I chose to ignore them. It's all right to do that. And I think many people today just opt to not do that. And that's something that I find to be a common theme, especially with young people in Christianity today. When I first learned about feminism, I was on that bandwagon. I personally believe that men and women, even from as far as creation, when you look at creation, men and women were looked at as equal by God. He created us to be equal. I come from a culture, being African, being Zambian. There are many cultures within the continent, and in my country, to be more specific, where many of the traditions that are held are just demeaning to women. And so, bearing that in mind, I am of the view that we should be treated as equal. It's not fair, it is not right for a man to be treated as a king and a woman treated as a slave, or to be enslaved to a man and his desires. So when I first learned about feminism, by definition of what feminism is, I was on the bandwagon for that. I definitely did agree with it. But today's version of feminism, it's not it for me. And I feel that it is doing more harm than good. Let me give you practical examples of that. Today, modern feminism teaches that, women and men should be held to the same standard, the same low standard. I was of the view that when women would complain about, how men are not being held to the same standard, especially when it comes to dating culture, women, if you're a woman who's dated so many guys, you're looked at as a harlot, a hule. You're looked at as promiscuous. Whereas a man, it's okay. It's cool. It's what men do to be promiscuous and are not deemed the same. And I thought what we were initially striving for was to be held to the same high standard. But no. Today, modern feminism or modern feminists are pushing for women to be held to the same low standard. And for the life of me, I cannot understand why women today want to be held to the same low standard. Why you want a free pass to be promiscuous and still be held with the same regard and respect as a woman who carries herself with dignity. The math is not mathing. I just can't understand that for the life of me. And now you have a number of women, with a whole sexual history, number of men with a whole sexual history, and it's just damage that's being perpetuated generation after generation. And that doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand how this is doing good ultimately. It doesn't make sense. This is revenge that in the end, I can't understand for the life of me. Someone please explain, because it's just not my thing. Two, I see a number of females today with this anti-man attitude, be it on podcasts, YouTube videos, real life, real time, who say whatever thing or whatever word that comes out of a man's mouth is automatically bad. And so you argue with every single opinion a man has just by virtue of him being a man, which to me doesn't make sense. We are not trying to bridge any gaps. We are not trying to have real conversations that breed solutions. What we're trying to do is just be heard, period. We just want our opinions and our feelings and our views to be stated without any resolution. If anything, the resolution I feel modern feminists are looking for is for men to bend their knees to their desires, which I don't really think is the way to go. So I feel modern feminism is doing more harm than good. And I feel that if we really want to make a difference, if we really want to bring change in our homes, in our communities, we should be ready to listen and not just want to be heard. Tying it to my previous point on the effects and outcomes of modern feminism, I think is women empowerment and this view of self-confidence that is defined by being dressed in skimpy clothing and posting pictures of yourself being half naked, or barely clothed. I personally am of the view that self-confidence especially comes hand in hand with self-respect. And I will use this analogy that my mom said to me when I was much younger. She asked me why it is that stones like emeralds and rubies carry much more value than stones that you find on bare ground. Why is it that people attach so much more worth to emeralds and rubies and diamonds, etc.? And I had told her that it was probably because they are buried way underground. You have to really dig and add so much labor for you to get to them. Whereas stones that are found on the bare surface are accessible to anybody, so they have no worth. And she explained to me that that is the same way you should look at your body. Your body is not for the view of every Jim, Jack, Jane, and Jude. Your body is worthy of only being seen by people you deem to be seen by. Like, respect your body enough that it is not treated like surface stones that everybody has access to, everybody sees, treat your body with the respect you would treat emeralds, rubies, diamonds, if not more. Conduct yourself with that kind of respect. And that really stuck with me. I understand that my confidence doesn't come from a place of me having to show my body to everybody. If anything, I find that that is a cry for validation, a cry for some form of approval. Why do I say so? If I need to post my pictures on an app like Instagram, which in the basic features of Instagram, has the requirement that people like my pictures, I don't think it's really coming from a place of confidence. I do not need anyone's approval for my self-confidence. That is what it is by definition. And so this idea of saying, oh no, being confident means you post your, but no, I know I look good. I know I'm beautiful, but I don't think it's for every Jim and Jack to see. So at least not the parts that are, under these clothes. It's okay for me to admire what's under these clothes in private. Okay? Yeah. But yeah, back to my point. I just don't think self-confidence and women empowerment should be defined by dressing in a skimpy fashion. If anything, like I said, it's just misconstrued understanding of what those words are. I think, the whole idea of someone like, say, Ciara, who had a toxic dating history, meeting this guy, who was willing to accept her and her child, want a family with her, wanted to be committed to her, married her, and they seem to have this beautiful life, from the outside looking in. I think, it's great. It's beautiful. It sounds desirable to many women today. But the truth of the matter is, Ciara is an exception to the rule. Many of you are not Ciara. You don't live the life Ciara lives. You don't look like Ciara. And that's not to diss you or your appearance, but it's a reality check to say the outcome that Ciara had, despite her past choices, does not reflect the outcome that you're going to have if you choose to have a dating culture that's toxic, date people who are toxic because you're toxic, and somehow hope that in the future, when you're ready to settle, be it at 35 or 40, a good man will still be available to you because it happened in Ciara's life. You're not Ciara. Ciara is the exception to what really happens. And I think many of us try to apply the exception to everything, and we try to generalize it when an exception is exactly what it is, an exception. And so I think many people, have claimed this Ciara prayer over their lives and end up being miserable because they're not receiving the same outcome that she received. The Russell Wilsons are not many. That's just a fact of life. If you chose in your 20s, which I'm actually seeing even for my age group, if you decide to choose in your 20s, if you decide to choose in your youthful years, when you're at the peak, of your glow, you decide to choose to date people who are not good for you. And you even know that they're not good for you, but it's what you're attracted to because you yourself are toxic, You decide to date toxic people who are non-committers, and you yourself are a non-committer. The years go by. That good guy or those good guys you are bypassing and refusing to work on yourself with or for your own good, that is, will not always be there waiting for you to have your turnaround. They'll move on with good people who are good for them, who match them and what they're trying to get at. And you get to your late 30s and your early 40s and you're looking for those good guys. Majority of them are married. Majority of them have moved on with lives. They're building their careers, they're building their lives, their families. And you're there somehow hoping that you're going to get Ciara's outcome. It doesn't work like that. I think it's very important that especially young people today come to terms with this reality. And for older people going through this to come to be honest about what the dating culture really is like at that age, especially when you've had a past of dating toxic people. The truth of the matter is, when it comes to also dating toxic people, you don't leave those relationships untouched. You don't leave those relationships the same. It adds on. And guys, especially, I'm speaking from a perspective of females, and I'm speaking to women because that's majority of my audience. So guys, when guys see and know of your dating history, how you've been dating toxic, very toxic, versus a person who doesn't have such a toxic background, the odds are they're going to go for the person who doesn't have that toxic background. It's just the reality of things. And so I think it's something that a lot of women, a lot of young ladies today need to bear in mind as you are on your hot girl summer, winter, or fall, or whatever it is. Bear that in mind as you are hoping that somehow you're also going to recite the Ciara prayer. Bear in mind that you are not Ciara. You may not be the exception to the rule. I've come to observe that a lot of females, especially in their late 30s to 40s, be it on TikTok or Instagram, are starting to abuse the term grooming when it comes to relationships of men who are, say, their age mates with girls who are in their, or ladies or women in their 20s. I think a lot of people are abusing the term grooming, because they're projecting their insecurities and their anger at the fact that men their age are not dating women their age. And I think, before we start to use such terms like grooming, by the way, carry a lot of weight. It's a very serious thing. So I think it's very important as you address certain situations, before you start accusing someone of grooming a lady who is old enough to be dating him. You get my drift. Before you start putting labels of grooming and whatnot on that guy, bear in mind also that you could potentially be projecting your own frustrations on that person. I think the terms high value man and high value woman are two of the worst terms to have ever been coined. I think regular people, are claiming these terms over themselves and using them to delegate what kind of lifestyles, they expect their partners. First of all, I've never heard of people I'd actually think are quote unquote high value, calling themselves that. It's just self-proclaimed people here calling themselves, hey, I'm high value woman, I'm high value man. And, talking about how high value men have, a pass to be polyamorous, and, you as a woman are supposed to drop whatever standards you have because you're 40. If you're not 40, you're instead 22, you don't have a high paying job, somehow you only have sex to offer to the table, so you're not really worth it. You should expect that there are going to be other women on the side. Like, why? And there are so many podcasts and YouTube channels that are talking irrelevant things about how high value men, need this and have. Where did this come from, guys? I don't understand. Where did it come from? If anything, that is a niche of YouTube that just irritates me. Because I'm just like, this is not bridging anything. We're not making any progress. Like, why are we even having some of these conversations? The same what do you bring to the table? It just makes you want to scream. Because I'm like, I hate hearing it. Like, I do not like hearing it. It's so annoying. Because you have a bunch of people who aren't really working on themselves and becoming better and actually putting into practice things that they could learn for the betterment of relationships in general. You just have a bunch of people having this conversation. Oh, so if your wife and your girlfriend, are there who sit in the front seat. Like, I don't understand how much progress some conversations are going to be. I mean, a high value. I make it make sense, because I don't understand the purpose, and I feel like you have a bunch of people using that, to raise their shoulders and moving with so much pomp. Hey, I'm a high value man, I'm a high value. Wait, by what standard? Like, what standard are you using? Because some of you, I don't know. I think, a lot of mental health disorders today are being treated more so as a trend than actual things to be treated, things to be cured of. And I think it's very saddening, because, and as much as I understand that it was very important for topics regarding mental health disorders such as depression, anxiety, and other, mental health disorders, it was very important for these topics to not be treated as taboo. I understand that. But I feel like nowadays, people are using mental health disorders that some, in fact, I think many, haven't even been diagnosed with, as a means of justifying, certain tendencies and behaviors that they choose to not work on. And it being some sort of justification for who they are, some means to validate themselves in society, to feel a certain essence of importance, even though it's not something to admire. It's not something to be celebrated, to be quite honest. I don't see how a mental health disorder is something that we should be happy about. Oh yeah, this is what I have. But that's how it's being treated. Yes, it shouldn't be treated as, some taboo topic. People who have these mental health disorders shouldn't be stigmatized. But I think we should also treat these things as what they are. Health disorders. It's not something that you should be rushing, to say, oh, I have. If anything, even when you're diagnosed with it, you should be wanting to address the issue, not it being some trending thing that you post on Instagram and TikTok. Like, this should be the order of life. I don't understand how, being healthy and being normal is something that people don't strive for today. I don't know. Maybe normal is not the best term, but being healthy more so. I don't understand how that's not something people strive towards now. Really, people claim that they want that, but their actions are the total opposite. I can't understand for the life of me. I think there are people who are really struggling, like seriously struggling with these health disorders. And I feel like when we make these things a trend or a means to excuse laziness, or outright refusal to just work on ourselves to be better, which we have the capacity to, I think we undermine the severity of what people who are seriously facing these things are going through, if that makes sense. And I find that very problematic. I think there are many people who glamorize the idea of having haters. And I can't understand that. I really cannot understand that kind of logic. You see it on people's statuses. The moment they achieve something, oh, my haters what? Or as motivation to achieve something. Your haters what? Your haters, my haters. Oh, you don't have haters. Like, I don't understand why you would decide as a person to use people, imaginary people or supposed people, wishing you ill to be your motivation to do well. How about your love for yourself and your desire to do well and represent God being your motivation to do well. How about that? I can't understand that. Like, you just decide, and you know, I find that it's a trend that, you know, people somehow have allowed to happen, where you just there are people who actually have real haters, but some of you just create and invent these haters because somehow you don't like the fact that you have people who genuinely support you. This is a term that I actually don't like. It irritates me because so many people use it even for nonsensical things. But can we normalize actually celebrating and being thankful for the support systems that we have, and the fact that you don't have a bunch of people wishing you ill or informing you that they wish you ill. You've just decided to envision these people. You've never had someone tell you that they wish you ill, but somehow just because there's someone else who said they have haters, even you want haters, yeah, can we normalize being grateful for the fact that we have support systems, people who genuinely wish you well? Can we normalize being motivated to do well, you know, for ourselves because we love ourselves and we have a God-given purpose on this earth? You know, can we normalize that, please? Yeah. I know this one is going to ruffle some feathers, but I'm going to say it anyway. Not all feelings are valid. I know that in our present day society, we've heard this term used so often, so loosely, that all feelings are valid, but that isn't true. I don't believe it's true. The word valid, by definition, means, just one second, having a sound basis in logic or fact. Reasonable, well-founded, logical, rational, well-grounded. Many of the feelings that we may experience are real, based on the fact that we feel them, but they are not based on logic. They are not well-grounded. They do not possess sound basis in fact or logic. And I think, so this is why I believe the mere idea of saying, oh, all feelings are valid is a misuse of what the word valid actually means. And by virtue of its definition, it disqualifies the statement altogether. All feelings are not valid. And I realize, you know, the moment that it dawned on me and it hit me to say, you know, this whole notion is wrong altogether, it really helped to redefine just how I look at my life and the decisions that I make. I find that, you know, when you start to be of the view that, oh yeah, all your feelings are valid, it starts to shape how you look at yourself. Our feelings change. They change every day, you know, and if you take it that all your feelings are valid, that is based on, you know, sound fact, sound logic, you will be wishy-washy. Even with how you make decisions, you'll be wishy-washy with how, you know, your impact is and your influence is on other people, you know. And so I personally feel that, I know that, you know, all feelings are not valid. And I think the sooner many people start to realize that, the more we start to critically think about the decisions that we make and the things that we say and how they impact other people and how they impact our futures altogether. This thing of saying all feelings are valid is the reason, you know, why, you know, everything now in society is changing to each person's feelings. And the thing is, we all feel different things. Now it's to the point where other people's freedoms are being affected because my feelings are valid and the other person's feelings are valid, even if they conflict. And neither, or maybe one of them, is based on logic and the other is not. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. On a more light-hearted note, I feel that movie remakes need to stop. They need to stop. I am one person who just loves OG movies. I love OG movies. For example, Cheaper by a Dozen, The Lion King. I think The Lion King, the most recent version of The Lion King, only got so much hype because Beyonce voiced Nala and she sang a bunch of songs for the movie, but there was really nothing that even came close to the OG version of it, in my opinion. Same as Cheaper by a Dozen. If anything, it's just been politicized. You know, Cheaper by a Dozen is an OG comedy. Comedy which probably in our day and age would not even stand, which is very sad. Because now, sense of humor, anyway. Now the version of Cheaper by a Dozen, I saw it and I was livid. I was just appalled. I said, this movie was a comedy. Why have we politicized it? Like this, it just wasn't necessary. Like, make a whole new movie altogether then. Don't ruin something that was one thing, make it into a whole new genre, and then don't even do it justice. I'm so glad, at least last I heard, series like Sister Sister are not being remade or some sort of sequel. No, just leave the OG thing. Sometimes having the opportunity to just savor some memory, you know, is nice. There is no need to let's be creative, please. Yeah. On to my last point. I think institutions should be allowed to set their own standards of conduct without there being uproar over the said standards that an institution sets because an individual or a group of people just don't comply to it, especially when they have other options to join other institutions. What exactly am I talking about? I'll give an example. If, for example, say college, university, I think especially in the United States, you have a variety of universities you could go to. If I decide, for example, to go to or to attend a Buddhist university or Buddhist affiliated university, Islam affiliated university, Catholic affiliated university, the list goes on. The list goes on. I'm a Christian. If a Seventh-day Adventist Christian, if I decide to attend those universities specifically, when I have options to apply to and attend public universities that have no affiliations whatsoever with any religion or denomination, I shouldn't then, be angry or riot or opposed to whatever standards that institution has set based on their beliefs, based off on whatever writings they use or stand by. I shouldn't then decide to go make a ruckus at the school, because I don't agree with or because it infringes on my personal beliefs or views, even when they don't require me to do something ridiculous. If, say, for example, I am required to dress a certain kind of way because of the institution I go to, I should comply with that. I had the option to go to all these other schools that would probably align with my beliefs, my morals, and what I set as my values. I have the option to do that, but I opt to go to these, which are probably fewer quantity institutions on the scale of all the other institutions available to me in the US. I should be expected to comply with the rules and the standards that are there at that institution. I cannot understand why I would go to, minority, and by that I say I'm not speaking to racial things because I know that that's where many of us tend to think when we hear the term minority. I'm talking about ratios of, institutions. If, say, Christian or denomination related or religion affiliated institutions versus public, you'll find more public schools. That's the majority of institutions there. So if I decide to go to an institution that comes under the minority, I I specifically applied to that. I don't see why I should cause an uproar there and disrespect, the views of the institution. They have a right to uphold whatever views they want and to expect me to comply with that. So I don't understand why. I'm speaking about this because I've seen this happen. People nowadays want things to always go towards what they want, what they expect for things. It's the same thing you see even with social media platforms. LinkedIn, for example. LinkedIn, was meant for business purposes. It's a professional site. You have all these other platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all these other things. There's a plethora of social media platforms, Snapchat. You have all these other places that are just for social, casual, personal kind of dynamic. But you have people on LinkedIn who want to use LinkedIn as their Instagram, who want to use LinkedIn as their Facebook, who want to use LinkedIn as a dating site. For crying out loud. We should respect the institutions and the spaces, that have set boundaries to say, oh, this is what this is for. But because we don't have boundaries in our own lives, we want everything else to comply to our lack of boundaries. Hey, please, let's change our ways. Let's change our ways, please. It's very irritating. When I go on LinkedIn, I don't want to see your nakedness. When I go to LinkedIn, I don't want to learn about your anniversary. I know this could be very harsh to hear, but it's just not the space. Let's respect the spaces that we are in. I don't want to hear about your wedding anniversary or whatever trips. Hey, let's leave those things for other. When I go to LinkedIn, I want to see more professional things. I want to learn about, say, workshops. I want to learn about job opportunities. I want things that are professional. I don't want to learn about, what new body exposure things you want. Hey, please, keep those things elsewhere. I've said my piece. Yeah. So yeah, guys, this has been my unpopular opinions. I know at some point, things got a little heated. It's just that I'm passionate about certain things. But yeah, this has been my unpopular opinions. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please feel free to comment what your unpopular opinions are. Let's have a conversation in the comments. If you have any video suggestions that you specifically want me to tackle, things that you want me to talk about on this channel, feel free to hit me up on my Instagram. I will have that for you in my description. So yeah, guys, I really hope you have an awesome week and great start to your year. See you guys in my next video. Bye.